Hey everybody, I'm David with Bolivar Live, and I'm here with Chandra with Aran and Franklin Engineering. And Chandra, you and I were talking beforehand about maintenance, and we were actually what started it was you said, "Man, we're in February already,"
Right.
and you said Mardi Gras is right around the corner, spring break, you name it, it's fixing to hit us like we never seen it coming. Let's talk about maintenance because both in Galveston, all over Galveston County, and even into some of Harris County up in Kema, and then down here, all areas y'all cover. Maintenance is a big thing when you're on the coast, and we've gone through Burl, we've gone through a freeze now with snow. Now's the time to get that house done. And you were talking about bolts being loose, and I said, well, we've had some pretty good winds we had south winds during Burl, southwest winds, and then we are south winds, and then we had north winds with the front that came in. So your house is moving back and forth.
Right.
All the the bolts that on the pilings, the corner tie downs, all that. Is that something that you should go through once a year and check?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a couple of things that go on. First of all, wood shrinks over time, so you kind of have to adjust for that factor and tighten everything up as that wood is shrinking, whether it's your stringers or your piling or both.
Hmm.
So that's something that does have to be maintained over time. Then you also have to look at, we're a highly corrosive environment. We're in that salt air all the time, the sea fog, all that stuff. Over time, that will corrode your bolts. So you need to make sure that you're checking them if they're rusted, and if you're not going to paint them or spray them with galvanization, then you need to possibly replace them periodically.
Hmm.
That's probably a once every 10-year thing. I mean, it can be rusted and not be deteriorated, and you still have good, amount of
Hmm.
section left to resist everything. But you definitely want to tighten it up because, like you were saying, as things move, I mean, these piling, just think of it like a tree. When the wind blows, it's going to sway just like a tree. And those connections, every single connection is critical. And so you need to tighten everything up, make sure everything's good. A lot of times the stringers, usually the stringers are blocked to your floor joist, and
Hmm.
then they soffit that whole thing in. So you really never see that. But you can see usually from the underside of the stringers if they don't soften it in, all those blocks, and if those nails have maybe started coming
Backing
loose, or if
out.
those blocks are shifting in that stringer cavity. So if you have exposed conditions where you can monitor that, great. If
Or if
not,
you
maybe
have one
every
of those noises in your floor,
yeah,
when you're
yeah,
walking, all of a sudden it's or it starts to drop a little bit,
exactly.
you need to check it.
But especially people that rent their beach houses, I would say the number one thing we would need to check is your handrails and guardrails,
Yeah.
because that's a safety issue. And we don't want people to have a lot of liability. We want to make sure that they protect themselves from that liability and keep their renters safe. So the number one thing that we would check to start with would be handrails and guardrails, to make sure that those are installed correctly, they're the proper heights, nothing needs to be re-nailed, rebolted, or otherwise resecured. And then from there, we would move on to anything known. So yeah,
Right.
had an issue with the floor, need to check that. Maybe some cracks, maybe you notice that there's like some kind of loose siding or loose shingles, or some clouding in a window, or a door that's not latching correctly. We can kind of check all those things and see, is it something that just needs an adjustment, or is it something that's really broken that needs to
Right.
be replaced or repaired. So, because a lot of times, like you said, as things move and shift, the doors may just have to be realigned so those latches latch really well, because that's what we're counting on when the wind comes, is the latching mechanism to really hold that door in place. And if things don't line up correctly anymore, we may just need to adjust the hinges or reposition the door a little bit. The door may be fine, but if it doesn't latch correctly and lock correctly, you're
Right.
it's not going to perform as tested, which is what we want it to perform the way it's designed.
I
So
have one of those doors at my house that it depends on the environment. If it's a dry environment, like in the summer, it locks one way. It locks both ways. But if we get a lot of rain and it's a real damp environment,
Uh-huh.
then you have to move it a little bit to get it to lock.
Yeah.
So
No,
it
I
depends. You can go in one night and it locks fine, and the next morning it rained overnight
yeah.
and the house swayed a little bit or something, and you have to
Mhm.
jiggle the door a little bit to get
Well,
it
sometimes
locked.
there's a little finesse to all that, just knowing your house, which
I
is
mean,
okay too. But
you were talking
uh,
about rust, and down here, stainless rust. I mean,
oh, it
our salt
does.
down here, and actually the salt when you get further south, like Baffin Bay, is even worse in the water area,
Right.
higher salt content. But um,
Well,
y'all
that's
have a strong home inspection
we
program that covers all this.
we do, and we have different levels. You know, we kind of have the basic, which is just mostly your exterior components, which is the handrails, all your structural members that we can see, the foundation, the piling, all that stuff. The one place that we see piling deterioration is right at the ground because that's where you have uh, uh, wet, dry, wet, dry, wet,
Right.
dry conditions. And so you end up getting a lot of uh, water penetration and drying out
Hmm.
right there at the grade. So usually pile below grade's fine, pile above grade's fine. It's just that little transition piece that's always the part that
About
deteriorates.
6 to 12 inches at the top,
Yeah.
probably.
So we usually can look at that area to see if we see any deterioration of the piling. We look at your bolting, your stringers, see if there's any deflection in anything. Sometimes we can just kind of jack it up, block it, or brace it, and kind of if you've got some movement in the house or the floors aren't level,
Hmm.
we can kind of deal with that. But we basically just look at the outside, and then there's other plans where we can go in and look at the inside. We can look at the floor level cracking. We can do the thermal imaging. Really, even look at your appliances and your electrical systems and your HVAC systems to see how they're performing
Right.
for you. Because, like I said, not everybody lives here, and it may not be a priority for you to get down there. You just want to get it rented from Mardi Gras, or rented for, but
Spring
you want to
break.
also make sure it's safe.
Right.
So
And
it's great to
you
make that money, but you got to make sure it's safe.
with like if someone called and wanted the basic, the handrails outside of the house, all that, you actually get an engineer's report with that, don't you?
Yeah, it's an abbreviated report, I would say. But it
Uh-huh.
does document. We have our whole inspection report with all the
Okay.
photographs and everything. So we're documenting everything for you. So you don't have to go out there and document everything,
Right.
and as is conditions. It's a visual inspection of everything. We'll do this report. It'll have any issues that need to be addressed, and kind of like the grade of that. Is that like a
Hmm.
immediate need, or is that just
Right.
something that you need to put in your 12-month plan, to kind of get it done over a certain period of time?
And
uh, and it gives you a baseline. So if we had a storm, another
uh-huh.
barrel, or something more
That's what I was
serious,
gonna
just
say.
yeah, you have a
If
baseline for where your house is.
if you did it between now and May and we had a storm, you can go back to this engineer report and say, or inspection report and say, I had the roof checked and the handrails checked and the stairs were checked in April of 2025. It's just July. They're
Right.
gone because of the storm, not because
That's
of
right.
maintenance.
You
And
can
so,
definitely make the distinction between deferred maintenance and storm damage a lot
right,
simpler if you have that documentation. Especially, you can have a lot of people inspect it. You could inspect it, but it carries a little bit more weight with these
right.
insurance companies when it's an engineering company reviewing and assessing and stamping off on it. So it
So,
does it does carry more weight for
right.
you.
So when at some point will some of these reports that if you do stuff like this, do you think eventually down the road that insurance companies may give a discount? Sort of like if you take driver's ed, has anyone approached it to that fact?
I haven't heard of that, but that's a really good that's a really good option. I mean, what you may be able to do is ask your agent if they
Okay.
offer some kind of program where if you get an engineering assessment of the house current condition and show that there's no deferred maintenance items, or if you have a list of deferred maintenance items and they're corrected, and then you get like a certificate for
Right.
that, then is there any available discounts because of the condition of the house? There
Right.
may be, and it may be policy by policy, agent by agent,
Right.
but it may be that there is something that
The,
you could benefit
the
from. The biggest thing is the peace of mind, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean,
I would
that's
love
what
to.
it gives you it gives you some ammunition. I hate to put it that
Right,
way, but if something happened, you have a report that says, I had this inspected 6 months ago. My roof's gone now. The inspection shows from from an engineering company that
right,
this was satisfactory and up to code, and now it's
right,
gone. It wasn't deferred maintenance I didn't do. It
right.
was the wind or the tornado or something. So, well, if
Right.
people, you've got a bunch of information on the Strong Home Inspection
Yes,
Program on your website, don't you?
we do. We have a page that talks about the strong home inspections. You can
Okay.
put in a request based on their house square footage, and if it's a slab or a piling house, which most of your the
Right.
beach guys is going to be piling, but some of the people that are more Winnie or Beaumont or something, that might be
Okay.
a slab house. So they're priced a little bit differently based on size and
Right.
type of home that
Okay.
it is. But yeah, I mean, it's like definitely. I mean, your home is your biggest investment, and it's also your biggest liability. So
Right.
it's a good way to go ahead and be proactive and get
Get
that
things taken
assessment
care
done,
of.
see where you're at, and then know that you're good, or know
Right.
that you have to plan for and budget for some repairs down the line.
Great. Great. Well, for more information on the Strong Home Inspection Program, or if you have any questions, last week we did a show talking about still getting repairs done from Burl, the freeze. Make sure you go to Aaron and Franklin, aaronfranklin.com. You can email them there. You can get a phone number, everything you need. If you want some more information on the Strong Home Inspection Program, which they've had for quite some time now, it's really great because they'll come out every year and take care of this inspection, and that way you don't have to worry about it. You've got peace of mind, especially if it's an investment property down here and you're going to have renters in it throughout the year. You want to make sure it's safe. So, Chandra, thanks for joining us this morning. Maybe next week we can get Dave in here
I hope so.
instead of bailing out on us. So, we're going to head on out. Hope y'all enjoyed the show. Until next time, I'm David with Bolivar Live with Chandra from Aran and Franklin Engineering. Y'all have a great day, great week. Come see us. God bless, and bye-bye.